lead anywhere, but they said that. And arguments against Epstein were happening back in March. So this is why I kept up with it. Before people were paying attention to it prior to his arrest, I was one of the few people keeping up with the ongoing news and letting you know that something was afoot. And new evidence connecting Jeffrey Epstein to Les Wexner explored that connection even deeper. News about Jeffrey Epstein building on a new island. Court orders the release of pages of Epstein documents. And then Epstein arrested and charged with sex trafficking, of course. Then I did another video diving deep into the Epstein-Trump connection. Then the mainstream even admitting Epstein's intelligence connections. More information about Epstein's pedophile island. Did Trump ban Epstein from Mar-a-Lago number 2? Looking even deeper to that. Then some of you know that I got the transcript for one of the court hearings where the victims of Epstein had a chance to speak out after his alleged suicide. And then we talked about zeroing in on the co-conspirators, the people who are still out there who haven't been charged, including Maxwell, Jean-Luc Brunel, all the various women, and probably Dershowitz and other people like that. Will the courts redact the Epstein files? Yes, is the answer. The judge denies Epstein victims justice. So the judge that originally said that the law was broken and that the Crimes Victim Rights Act was violated because the victims weren't consulted basically said, well, now that Epstein's dead, there's nothing that we can do about it, and it's up to the future courts to decide. And then lastly, I said, forget Epstein, let's find Jean-Luc Brunel. And I did see a report recently that Jean-Luc Brunel, who is the guy with the M2 modeling agency, who was helping Epstein and Maxwell and other folks recruit young girls, apparently has been found, and he says he's willing to speak. So we'll see what comes of that in the coming days. I do want to point to this article that I saw an activist post. Epstein Trail Leads to the Top, a collection of articles and videos that helped connect the dots. And this is by Brandon Turbeville, who is a journalist I've known for a few years, and he does a good job here of not writing his own article, but just kind of pointing to saying, hey guys, look, here's these pieces of the puzzle that have all been put together. Who killed Jeffrey Epstein? Why Mossad are suspects? That's from Syrian Girl, Partisan Girl, Mimi. David Icke does a breakdown. Of course, they talk about Isaac Cappy, if you want to get into that. Talk about Whitney Webb's amazing series of articles. You can look into my interview with James Corbett, where he talks to me about Jeffrey Epstein and the Finders. Of course, he links to the Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein documentary, and plenty of other reports that are worth your time if you really want to dive down this rabbit hole for those who haven't yet. And I know there are people out like, Amazing Polly and others who have done some deep dives. Of course, Jason Burmis. And I think some are better than others. I know that Jason's done a good job. And there's a huge web to this, and I have all those articles from Whitney. I think Whitney has done the best written work on this topic because she's gone deep for the written format. Some people aren't going to read articles, though, so people like myself break them down into videos. But that's where things have been now for the last year. I visited Epstein's house last year, and now that it's almost 1 year since my documentary's come out, as I've said in recent videos, I'm going to be releasing a part 2 of that documentary. I don't know about the title yet, but it's going to be basically catching people up on all the details we know now. What I knew then, covering Epstein's arrest and his alleged death, and then looking deeper into the puzzle, the web of people around Epstein, and just how deep it really goes. So stay tuned for that in the coming months. I imagine that will come early 2020, more than likely, because I'm also working on a 5G documentary. I'm also trying to produce a book, and then, finish running for mayor. So it's been kind of interesting, doing all this work at once, but I'm glad that I've been able to be one of the many people out there trying to keep people talking about Epstein and digging deeper, because I do think even if Epstein himself is just a bit player, and I think that's part of the puzzle, the network that he's connected to, obviously we can see he's connected to intelligence, to science, to politicians, to celebrities, and those people connect to intelligence agencies, particularly the Mossad, and as well as other important and influential people. This is the web. This is, if there was an Illuminati or whatever word you want to use, or the shadow government, this is definitely a part of that puzzle. So thank you all for supporting my efforts and supporting the documentaries, and for helping me get to nearly 600,000 views on that documentary. I think it's going to keep growing. It's kind of a timeless topic, and people continue to search for Epstein, and they continue to see it. So thanks to everybody who has watched that, shared it. And again, if you haven't seen the Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein Cutting Room Floor, check that out. And I will also include the link to this article here, of the collection of articles and videos, in the description below. And I'll throw in a link to this one in case you never read my There's One Question the Media Refuses to Ask Donald Trump. And that's it, guys. Check out the full Jeffrey Epstein investigation playlist on the